Welcome to the Cyber Life Podcast. In part 3 of the data privacy series, we step into the global arena of Data Privacy 101, understanding GDPR. From the EU to the world, the General Data Protection Regulation has set the standard for how personal data should be protected. It defines your rights as the data subject, hold the data controller and the data processors accountable, because when your data is more valuable than currency, global rules matters. So let us get into it. Welcome back to the Cyber Life Podcast. I am Shervin, and I'm here on part 3 of the Data Privacy 101 series. If you have seen the first 2 series, you will know that we are talking everything privacy. So we want you to tune in and sit back and relax, because there's much for us to cover today. And like always, I'm not alone by myself as I dive into this.
Hello everyone, my name is Aaliyah, aka Cyber Girl, and as always, I am super excited to be here with my dad to talk about data privacy, finishing off our series. We are on part 3 now, so I'm super excited. And today we'll be talking about the gold standard of privacy laws. I mean, let's face it, it's GDPR. So we are here talking about that, and even though it started in Europe, it reached its global. So we see that even now, certain places around the world uses GDPR to do different things. And if you do business online, this actually does affect you.
And it does. And the first thing we need to understand is that everyone hearing GDPR, hearing these acronyms. What is GDPR? What do we do? What does it mean about GDPR?
Yeah, so let's start. Please tell us, what is GDPR?
Well, GDPR stands for the General Data Protection Regulations. It was passed in Europe back in April 2016, and then it went into full effect 2018 around that time. And GDPR, we try to figure out exactly how does this affect me and affect my data inside the whole scope of things when it comes to privacy.
Definitely. So here is the big question, because we did say that the GDPR really was passed in Europe. So is this only for Europe citizens?
No, it is not. That is a good question. But the GDPR protects personal data of anyone located inside in Europe as well, regardless of their nationality or whether they're vacationing inside Europe in Paris, students who may be inside somewhere inside school, maybe a student from Jamaica, maybe a student from other Caribbean countries. All of these persons are protected underneath that, along as they are inside Europe.
Right, so now we got the basics down of what is GDPR. Let's move a little bit forward. So last podcast recording, we talked about the different players inside our, when we talk about the GDPR, any type of thing, like we talked about the Data Protection Bill and Act 2023, and we see that one was tabled and passed inside Parliament for 2025. So we'll still see, hopefully, that come into play. But let's really talk about the main players of this whole act.
Yeah, the first player inside this act, if you have followed the other podcasts, you will hear this word sound familiar, what we call the data subject. Data subject are you. You the persons who are the data subject. It is your data. So when you hear the word that data subject, just remember that it's referring to you.
Right.
That's you. Under the GDPR, you have the superpower. So you have the strength. You have the rights. You have rights over your data.
And let's put that plug in, because that's also very important to understand and know that you have rights to your data.
Right. And you have to remember that you have rights to access your data. You have rights to demand your data. You have rights to be able to see your data. And the rights ensure another part of this rights is the one thing I like about this rights is the right to be forgotten. All this is that you can tell a company that they need to delete your information, and they have to show proof that the information have been deleted. So it prevents company from holding onto your data for a considerable amount of period. And if there is a breach and your data is still accessible even after you would have told them to get rid of it, then there actually has to be their recourse on this as well. Then you have data rights to data portability. You can ask for your data in different format and ask for your data to take it to another organization, to another institution. Like say, for instance, between banks, you are able, like when we go to our bank local, every bank you go to, they're gathering information on you. One bank have information on you. When you move to the next institution, that information on you. When you move to the next institution, so here it is that now you have to point with on the GDPR, and in the EU, you have ability to take your data and you have data to portable and move your data back and forth.
Right. And so moving on to the next one after the data subject, we have the data controller. So this is the organization that decides why the data is being collected. So they have the most weight on their shoulders.
That's correct.
Right.
It's right.
So important.
It's so important as the data controller, you collect this person's information, my information. So now it is that you have my information. How you can secure my information as we go along. You're going to see some of this where we discuss as well.
And I think it's not only for just, we can have it too from individuals to companies to companies, especially if you're thinking as a business owner and you use a third party. How is this third party protecting my data that is stored in their tools or anything that they created?
That is so true. Remember, we always talk about how data is like gold. Right. So here it is that one person have your data. How are they protecting your data? So when you have privacy laws in place, the privacy laws actually set guidelines and put guidelines in place that persons have to follow when they gather your data and they accept your data from you. They have to put in certain protection in place, and if it is not in place, in fact, persons need to know that first they can actually go in and they can take a look and see exactly what it is that they have in place. And there's certain things that are not in place, then they can be fined for it as well.
And there's also different frameworks that you can follow to put different security controls, both technical and physical, in place for your company.
The thing about this too is that you can follow the protocols and the thing of the GDPR as well, because it has the certain rules, and you can become GDPR compliant as well when you go through putting certain things inside place.
Right.
So that's the thing what I like about it, and I like about how strong it is. I believe that a lot of other jurisdictions is partnering their privacy laws after the GDPR because of the strength that it has and the weight that it holds with teeth. So we'll see a lot.
We see it a lot. And then continuing on, just to give you a great understanding what the data controller is responsible for, they are primarily accountable. So they are legally responsible for ensuring the data is handled fairly and transparently, lawful basis. So they must prove that they have a legal reason, like consent or a contract, to even touch your data. And then 3, which is the most important, transparency. So they must provide a clear privacy policy that a regular person can understand.
And that is clear, because usually when we get a lot of these things, have you ever went to, when they ask you to click something to accept it, you see all of these fine prints and you trying to read through that, you're not going to read through that.
Honestly, it's so long. I could be so honest, I don't even read.
You don't want to read that. You get you purchase a software, they ask you to read through this whole thing. You're not going to read that. So here it is that it's creating rules so that you have to make it so easy for the persons to understand. They know exactly what they accepted. They know exactly how their data is being provided. Don't put in all kind of gibberish and try for us to understand that. So that's what is changing as well. And finally, one of the things that it add inside there is the data processor. We're talking with third-party cloud. Now, that's a pair of peeves of mine, because everyone's saying the cloud is the buzzword. Let me go into the cloud, put everything in the cloud. And I'm fine with the cloud. I have no issues with the cloud. But one thing I want persons to understand that even in the cloud, you are responsible for securing your data.
But to add on to when it comes to the cloud, like I love the cloud too, but I must add that suppose something happened where the business might have some maybe outage. What happens now? You're unable to get access to the data or the information that you need to have your business to continue. So although I love cloud and I think it's a great idea to use, and like you said, you do have to make sure you protect your information even if it's in the cloud. What is your backup plan, or what is your failover if that cloud has an outage or that cloud has an incident? What are you going to fail over to?
Yeah, and the good thing with the GDPR, wildlife with the GDPR, is not letting the cloud provider off the hook, and that's a good thing. So the cloud provider think that if something go wrong with my data, they're totally off the hook, but it's not.
Right.
But it says that they are direct liabilities. That's what they call it. Something like direct liability to under the GDPR. The processor can be fined directly. Excuse me. They can be fined directly, and they can lose data. They can before.
Because I was kind of... Okay.
Yeah. Roll right inside my throat.
Is that also... My switching. Need to put a video in.
We both say that.
Okay. I know with
Direct liability. Yeah. But one of the things that cloud providers need to understand, they are not truly of the there are direct liabilities. Under the GDPR, the processor can be fined directly by the authorities if they lose or act outside the controller's instructions. And secondly, they have to remember that duty to assist as well is also coded inside the GDPR. They are legally required to help the controller fulfill those rights and access. So when we look at the GDPR, it actually takes a comprehensive approach to data privacy, and no longer where that our data was out there, no one responsible for it. Your data showing up inside the dark web, and you hear a person saying that I don't know, what would you expect for me to do? And when you're talking about the dark web, we know so well what it feels like to know data sitting up on the dark web.
Yeah, that's a whole different. Definitely. And then let's talk. We define the rules of the GDPR, right? Now, let's talk about something that we do every single day.
Right.
We use this every day. I mean, different businesses, they can get thousands of views every single day, and that is emails. So most of us don't really think twice before hitting send. But under the GDPR, an email is potentially a liability.
Yes, because you have to understand is that information that you sent, or let's say for instance that I sent an email and that has person information inside that. That email wasn't supposed to be shared with anyone else. And here it is, someone has access to someone's information, and I didn't take the necessary care in the way I handle that information. So what do you think is going to happen? I have liabilities. And that's the thing I like about it as well. But when we look at emails, often we talk about personal identifiable information. So when you look at personal identifiable information, we're talking about things like your medical records. Your medical records, it could be just your social security number. Here inside the Bahamas, we have NIB number.
Right.
We're talking about your passport. We're talking about many things that actually where it can identify who you are. And we realize that it's much more than this. One time ago, we realized that if you and someone could have the same name, right? There's thousands of Anthony out there. And when you look and put that last name there, Role, we know that there's thousands of Anthony Roles. I think all of us will know an Anthony Role. Now, when we round it down to a birth date where we say that March or April or May and the date of that birth, then we rounding out some of those Anthony Roles out. We may have one or two in the same month, within the month, and maybe one for the, haphazardly. You don't see that 1 in 2 billion end up born on the same day. But when we start adding their address, then we really round out to one person. So guess what we just did? As we add more to that information, we are now singling out that person, identifying who that particular individual is. So we just came out, even if we add the Social Security or the National Insurance number, guess what? We just single out who the individual is. So now you have all that information in email. That becomes personal identifiable information. You can identify the exact Anthony Role, who we are discussing, and everyone know who that is as well.
Right. So going through this, what are the rules? Does GDPR mandate encryption for email?
Yes. One of the things I like about it is that we're talking about encryption. In fact, even if you are not following the GDPR, encryption is good for the email to make sure that when you send that email, and if it ends up in the wrong hands, and because they don't have be able to decrypt that, then they would not be able to read that. So here it is that you put in protection, and inside, we know inside the cybersecurity world, we call that confidentiality.
Yeah.
So here it is that you want to ensure that that information remains confidential, means that only the person it was intended for should be able to see it. And that's one of the things that we also need to look at it too. And we have to look at the fact that when we think about encryption, it has to be a two-way street. If we're talking about encryption at rest, means that you encrypt the data sitting there, not moving. And then we also do encryption in transit, means that as the data moves through, whether it's the internet or whatever, you letting it pass through, but it's actually encrypted and no one can see it, the information. And there's different type of encryption. You have end-to-end encryption, which is actually on, I think, WhatsApp.
Yeah.
End-to-end encryption. And that's something that was big that they had to put inside WhatsApp and try to see how much that they could secure it. And then we also have the rules when it comes to everyone blind copying and all of that. This was very easy way to get fined, because persons now sending an email, but they blind copying someone, so someone get another email of that. Yeah. And GDPR came into play where that also came into play with a lot of persons to stop persons from being able to do that as well. So when we look at the way how it did, it actually really enhanced security, enhanced the way that persons ought to be conducting themselves with regards to email, and it make you more sensitive to your data as well, because we are very loose with our data. We think that someone having your passport number is not an issue because it's a normal practice that we have. But when it becomes an issue, when you try to travel and then someone told, when you get there, they say that, well, this passport is already used by someone else. And then you say that's my passport. I haven't been anywhere, but someone is using your passport to travel with.
And that's serious. That's a very serious thing.
It is serious.
Honestly. So let's move on and talk about protecting our children's data. Having everything with our kids, I really love.
Yep.
And we really need to understand that in this day and age, back in my day, I really had, I wasn't on the internet like that. I was more so outside.
Yeah.
So I grew up in the generation. I mean, I was close to 1990s because I was 2003 baby. So
grew up outside.
Yeah.
Or inside the wheelbarrow.
Exactly.
You can call it a swimming pool.
I mean, that's what children do. But nowadays, especially when I talk to a lot of younger kids, they always talk about saying, I'm on Roblox. Roblox seems to be the number one thing that everyone is on. And I'm like, do you guys go outside to play? But nevertheless,
yep.
How do the GDPR actually handle things when it comes to protecting our children.
I love this privacy law because here it is that children get specific protection because many of them are less aware.
Yeah.
And because they are less aware, they are more at risk. And when they are more at risk, we have to ensure that they have protection in place. So the GDPR says that if an online service must rely on consent to process children. So here it is that now parents have the consent in order for something to process their children data online. Your child, you notice that everyone actually now asking the question, your age, how old are you? Because why? If someone said that I'm 15 and then to verify that even closer, they will say that give me your date of birth so that they can understand exactly what's going on. Because they are younger, they actually have to have the consent of the parents.
So my main thing is that, okay, we oftentimes when you go on different sites, they'll ask you about what age, depending on what site it is, they'll say, are you over the age of 18 or over the age of 13? And you could easily lie and put a different age in an older year. What do you think about that when it comes to these sites using that as maybe a method to gauge what age the user who is approaching the website or going on the website, how would that work?
Well, when you look at the age from a GDPR perspective, you look at the GDPR perspective, it's talked about the consent age of 16.
Right.
So here it is that children, and in fact, when you put a different age and a different birthday inside there, it will not know. Let's say, for instance, take case in point. I, as a child, may decide to use one of my parents' birthday.
Exactly.
It would not know. It would not know that that's a parent birthday. So it tries to round it down as much by asking questions that will confuse the child. I've seen some of them. And you know, the thing with children, they are honest. And when they put stuff inside it, they are pretty honest. They might ask even down to certain questions that it asks. And I right away, but when you look at the GDPR, it says that the digital consent age is 16 years. So in some EU country, they have lowered that to 13. Now, when you look at the ages between 13 to 16, think about it. Can a 13-year really make a rational decision?
No, not at all.
And in fact, some 16-year-old can make rational decision as well.
18 too, some of that.
So when we look at it inside our country, we realize that it is up to 18 for a child to have some sort of legal any backing or any weight or whatsoever as well. So that's some of the things that we also have to look at when we look at age pertaining to privacy. And it's important to realize that your child, when they are on the internet and they are placing these information, these sites are asking for their age and asking for their names and all that stuff, the parents have to have consent, give consent to that under the GDPR. Now, it all depends on the jurisdiction that you are. Now, if you're inside a country such as ours, then we see parents allowing children to put information on the internet all the time and with ease, with no problem, and all of that. And it don't, when you look inside the law per se, talking about some of the things which we will talk about inside another episode, we don't see any that level of protection that we would like to see as cybersecurity experts.
Right. So let's talk about the world examples of breaches. So we know every single day I get notifications about breaches.
I am tired of seeing it.
Every time I see it, I'm like, oh, another one?
In fact, breach almost look like the word beach.
That's how much times we look at it.
Look at it so much. I think about the beach, right?
Honestly, sometimes for me, as a cybersecurity professional, I'm sitting there like, we are not doing enough because it seems like every single
most definitely
is something.
Yep.
So
and the number is staggering when you see the numbers.
Honestly, but please tell us about the numbers and about these breaches that we see happening around the world.
Well, I have some numbers here where we're talking about under the GDPR again, which was so interesting. We have Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram, which received a fine for their breach, which is about 1.2 billion in 2023 for mishandling data transfer. So here it is that think about 1.2 billion. I don't think we will ever see such money even inside our day and time.
Yeah.
1.2 billion. And then we look at Amazon. Amazon was hit with a fine, which is what 746 million. Fine over how they use customer data for targeted ads. So here it is that why this is so important. And I say why I like GDPR privacy law, because persons were taking your information and using it for art. They probably were taking images, all the stuff that you would have put out there, they're using it for art, targeting art. Either they targeting you or they targeting someone. And they were fined for that under the GDPR. And then the world famous, I must say, everyone loved TikTok.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
The mouse went up the clock. But here it is that the TikTok also was fined over 530 million just recently for failing to protect, again, children's privacy. This is one of the environment that children spend the most time on. So you would think that TikTok would have put in the necessary protection to protect those children.
And let me tell you, when you hear numbers like 1.2 billion, 746 million.
And we're talking about euro.
Okay, that's a lot of money.
Yes.
That is a lot of money.
It is.
Going into my favorite part, I like to talk about fines. In fact, recently, I can't remember who, but I had conversations about fines when it comes to these laws and everything, right?
Yeah.
And, when breaches happen, sometimes you will get fined, just the examples that is given.
Yeah.
So.
That they have to be fines. Because if they don't be fines, there will not be corrective measures.
Right.
Right? So if you just do a slap on the wrist, then everyone will continue.
Exactly.
So it has to be hefty fines.
And people won't understand that whatever happened is serious.
Right.
So definitely having fines doesn't sound good, but oftentimes I feel like cybersecurity isn't taken seriously. And so in order for it to be taken seriously, there has to be fines.
Yes, I totally agree.
Knowing this, right, how do the authorities actually decide if a fine is 1,000 or 1 billion?
Well, the thing I like about this is that under the GDPR, they have tiers. They have tiers. They have tier 1 is for lesser violations and up to 10 million or 2% of your turnover. And then also they have another tier, which is tier 2, which covers serious violations like ignoring consumers' rights, and that can range from 20 million or 4% of your turnover. So when you look at these kind of fines, say for instance that you think about it, if you are maybe pulling in about $5 billion and they charge you 4% of your $5 billion that you will, and that actually is not on the net, that is on the gross. Here it is that what you making is not after you pay all that stuff. Being everything that you made, they charge you the 4% if that's serious, or 2% if it's lesser, on that particular amount.
So it sounds like you might as well spend the money on the necessary security controls that is needed so that you can be able to protect your company and also your customers' data, than to not do that and then end up paying a whole fine.
And another thing about this is sometimes the control is not that much. They put certain controls in place. And get this, one of the controls may easily put in place, you might be in breach of the fact that you're not doing security awareness training as you should, which is good practice as normal, not just only doing the LMS, but you also testing your users as well to make sure that they are retaining the information, they understand, and they are following the practice. Maybe as simple as putting in some policies, some security policies.
Yeah.
These are simple things that you can start off with. And here it is that persons may not be interested in doing that.
So this isn't something that we just starting to talk about. If we remember our previous podcast videos, so we see the cyber economics and then also the data breaches of 2025, and we went down in the countdown list. we see that majority of the things that we're talking about was neglect. So maybe a CISO went up to the board and told the board that we need this particular tools or this particular security controls in place, and the board refused to say, okay, we're going to get it. Instead, they neglected and say that it's not necessary until a cybersecurity incident happened. And then they realized the importance of having those security controls in place.
That's totally correct. So let's quickly move into another phase where we talk about cloud and all of that. And we're going to shift straight through this quickly. So when we look at cloud, which is another thing, where is your data? And we have to think, that's a question that we usually ask when person said, okay, I'm in the cloud. Okay, do you know where your data is stored?
Right.
No, it's in the cloud. You do not know where they place your data.
Like which cloud provider, like
which jurisdiction?
Where is it?
Your data located in the United States? Is it located in Canada? Where is your data? I don't know where my data is. So do you know that the data that you have is under that particular, the law of that jurisdiction that is housed? So here it is that based on where your data is, that law applies to your data.
Right.
So even though a person will say that, oh, I am in the Bahamas, so that's the data belongs to the Bahamas. Yeah, until you actually cross border and put that inside.
Exactly.
But you have to take a look at all of these when you think about it. So when you look at from the GDPR provides so many teeth and so many meats to how your data can be protected. And I encourage a lot of organizations to take a look at it. Take a look at it, see how we can work it within, how we can follow it, and even enhance what we already have in place. It is not, remember, the security is not there to hinder you. It is there to enhance what you already have in place. And as we always say, security is like baking a cake. It is all the stuff is baked in and is not actually adding after the fact where you bolt on to your system and try to make it work. It's not like that as well.
Right. So let's continue to move on. We want to talk about here. Let's bring it home into the Caribbean, into the Bahamas.
All right.
So what can a business owner in Nassau or across the Caribbean do to shield themselves?
The thing here is that there's a good question. You don't have to wait for the fines to come in place in order for you to begin protecting your business. And one of the things I always tell person is to ensure that you have a data processing agreement. If you're going to process persons and all of that, make sure you have some sort of agreement. The next thing is that be concerned on how you secure a person's data. You're collecting that information. You're collecting person's passport. You need to ensure that you're encrypting the passport. You don't just collect person's passport for compliance. And then here it is that you have their passport sitting out there inside the environment. It breach it and everything. Someone took the person's passport, and it's just like you don't care about all of that. So here it is that you have to be able to understand that you may have guests. You may have guests from Europe. You may have guests from the United States, which there is another privacy laws inside the United States, which is several of them.
Yeah.
And how you handle those persons' information is critical. So we have to take it serious. We have to put in the measure in place. Know how we're going to collect this information. When we collect the information, we have to understand how we can secure this information. Once we have the information secure, we have to make a decision how long we would retain this information.
And I think that the retaining is important because oftentimes, you can say that, okay, I need this data. I don't want to let it go. But there has to be some type of policy in place to let you know when it's time to let go of any data.
You have to have a data retention policy. It doesn't matter whether you're a mom and pop store, whether you're inside a big conglomerate or some big organization, you need to make sure you have a data retention policy in place. And then encrypt. Especially if you're collecting passport information, you will want to encrypt that information. If you are collecting personal security numbers and all of that identify them, you will want to encrypt that information inside the system, or if it is sitting on a drive, wherever you are storing that information, I recommend that you encrypt it. And these are not difficult and hard things to put in place. And these are, and then on top of that too, who in your organization should have access to that? Not everyone should be able to pull up some client passport and hold on to that as well, or some other person's passport.
And we call it least of privilege in cybersecurity, so you only have enough information to be able to do your job.
That's correct. You understand as well. These are some of the things that persons can do now, immediately.
Right.
And put it in place. And then there's additional stuff that they can do to enhance the few tips that we just mentioned.
Right. But we learned about the GDPR, and I know it sounds like a lot. It sounds like a lot of red tape and everything, but it is the blueprint for building trust in the digital age.
Right. And one person is to understand we have just scraped the surface.
Yeah.
We are doing a high level because there's so much more that if we had gone into deep dive into this, you will see so much more. We'll be in here much, much longer than we intend to at this particular point. So we want to give you a snap view, or aerial view of what it is like, and give you an understanding about the data subject, understanding your data, where your data are, and no understanding your responsibility for your data, and not allowing persons to take your data and not to store it securely as well.
And hopefully this gives you a solid foundation on understanding how you can protect not only your data, but if you're running a business, your customers' data, like your business data, your personal data, just everything, understanding that you are the owners of your data, and understanding how I can do best to protect what is mine.
Right. And in the final episode, one person to understand is that we'll be getting more into whom. We'll be discussing more of what's going on inside the Caribbean, in the Bahamas. How does this affect me with regards to my data? Trust me, you will be shocked to know exactly what's in place and what's not in place inside in the Bahamas with regards to your data. And we will go through all of that, and it will be revealing.
So while we wait for the next episode, remember to stay safe, stay protected, and keep your alerts on. We will see you in the finale.